Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be taking a look at an article by Evan Wanish. A lot of you probably know him as the co-host of the Cannon Fire podcast, but he also writes articles for BucsNation.com. And the article we're going to be taking a brief look at today and expanding upon it is 3 offensive free agents the Buccaneers could target in free agency. And those names are the following: running back Cam Akers, wide receiver Van Jefferson, and wide receiver Josh Reynolds. Now, I'm not going to read or show you guys the entirety of the article. Definitely go check it out on your own over at BucsNation.com, but I did want to expand to give my own thoughts and opinions on the 3 players that Evan here recommended. The first is running back Cam Akers, who I have his stats pulled up right here, went to Florida State, was originally with the LA Rams. He was a second-round draft pick of the Rams back in the 2020 NFL draft, won a Super Bowl with them in 2021. He was then traded to the Minnesota Vikings. He had a history with Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, who was formerly with the LA Rams, and has since been placed on the injured reserve. A lot of people are going to remember him due to his time at Florida State. You take a look at what he was able to do while at Florida State. Was pretty darn good. I mean, 1,100 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns in 2019, 1,000 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns in 2017. He was a good running back in college. There is no question about that. There was a reason he was selected in the second round. And I've talked a lot on the channel about the idea of getting a second running back to be behind Rachaad White as a complementary type guy. And on paper, I feel like a guy like Cam Akers would be an excellent fit. Right? He's only 24 years old. He still hopefully has a lot of gas left in the tank, so to speak, and has a pretty nice build of 5'10", 217 pounds. And if he is healthy, would be a really solid complementary type back who, in my opinion, would not cost that much. I say that all to say this: health is a major issue for Cam Akers in his time in the NFL right now. You take a look, the guy has only played in 36 games in 4 years. That is not great, all things considered. He is averaging 9 games played per season. So that isn't necessarily a great thing to go off of. He does only have 15 starts in his career. And in terms of his overall statistics, 36 games played, 1,500 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns. You see good things with Cam Akers, right? But an injury that wiped him out for the entirety of the 2021 season, an injury that wiped him out for pretty much the well over half of the 2023 season. That is what you worry about with Cam Akers. When he's healthy, he's a guy that can be a rotational piece, get you 4.3 yards per carry in 2020, 4.2 yards per carry in 2022. But health, man, health's the biggest thing with Cam Akers. He ended up on the injured reserve for the Minnesota Vikings to end out this recent season in 2023. So that's the biggest thing. That also goes to show why he would not be an expensive guy to bring in. So that's certainly notable as well, but I don't think that Cam Akers is a guy that you can bring in and just assume, oh, okay, this is fine, right? This is going to work out. Cam Akers is going to be healthy, and then everything's going to be okay. Not necessarily the case. Another thing to consider right now is also that Cam Akers is scheduled to be a restricted free agent, at least according to Spot Track. So I wonder if Evan does talk about that here in the article. Assuming he will be healthy, here we go. Was traded. He is scheduled to be a restricted free agent. So Evan did cover this in the article, which does give the Vikings the upper hand to keep him. But in the event they rescind the restricted free agent tender and Akers becomes a free agent, Tampa Bay could make a lot of sense. Yes, of course, Liam Cohen, former Rams OC, has the experience with Cam Akers. Again, that is just a connection there with Tampa Bay. He could get one of his former guys in the building who had some pretty decent success under Liam Cohen in 2022. But again, health's the biggest thing, man. Health is absolutely the biggest thing to pay attention to. I mean, he's had 2 years where he's had to be placed on the injured reserve. He's a restricted free agent. So this one probably seems unlikely. The Rams may just be well suited just to keep this guy at a relatively cheap deal. But, again, hey, could make some sense if he does become available. The next guy is Van Jefferson, wide receiver. This is one that I think the Buccaneers should be very, very interested in. Van Jefferson is 27 years old by the start of the season. He will be 28 years old. He was also a part of that Super Bowl championship team for the Rams in 2021. With Liam Cohen, he's got some experience in there as well. 6'1", 200 pounds, at least according to Pro Football Reference. Van Jefferson's a decent receiver. I think that he fits the mold perfectly of what the Bucs are probably looking for, which is a guy who can compete with Trey Palmer for wide receiver 3/wide receiver 4 snaps. He hasn't done a lot. He's another guy who's been, in and out of lineups, a fringe starter for the Rams in 2022. He also had an injury in 2022 that is very notable. He was playing in a full 17 games in 2023, which is good. We like to see that in terms of overall health, but he didn't get a lot of opportunities in Atlanta or with the Rams. It looks like he finished the year with the Rams, which I completely forgot about that. Hold on a minute. What the heck happened here? Did Van Jefferson get cut from the Falcons and then go to the Rams, or was it the reverse? Let's see. No, sorry. He was traded from the Rams to Atlanta. My mistake. So he finished the year in Atlanta. Got it. Sounds good. I believe so, right? Traded to Atlanta from Los Angeles. Okay, cool. Makes sense. So he started the year with the Rams, didn't get a lot of opportunities there, was traded to Atlanta, didn't get a lot of opportunities there. I think the peak of what Van Jefferson can be is what you saw in 2021, where 50 catches, 802 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's great. What you would probably be expecting is very similar to what you saw in 2022. Like 9 games as a starter, almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, honestly, very similar to what Trey Palmer did this past year. So I do think you would see an increase in this 209 yards and 0 touchdowns. But, maybe like 500 yards, something along those lines, maybe around 3 touchdowns is what you would be expecting from a guy like Van Jefferson. But in my opinion, it's fine for a 3/4 wide receiver. So I don't think that would be a bad signing at all, especially given the connections to Liam Cohen already on the team. The final one that Evan mentioned is Josh Reynolds. This guy I really would like the Buccaneers to be interested in. Evan does talk about, would be a true wide receiver 3. This would be a guy that would still be competing against Trey Palmer, in my opinion, but you would probably give him the upper hand in that scenario. If we can go look for not Chase Reynolds, not Leroy Reynolds, not Michael Reynolds, defensive end. Where is Josh? There's Josh Reynolds. You take a look at his contract last year. He had a $4 million cap hit. He was on a 2-year, $6 million deal. He's made himself more money since then. SpotTrack has his value at $7 million. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be what he gets. That seems a little bit high for me. But let's say like $5 million would be the number. I think the Buccaneers should be all over this. And look, I know he's going to be 29 by the time the season starts, but 6'3", 194 pounds is a real veteran wide receiver, right? He really has done some good work the past couple of years in Detroit. Again, his past 2 years in Detroit, he's started 24 games, has 1,000 yards, has 8 touchdowns, has played in 31 games in the past 2 years with Detroit. Doesn't have, let me check was Liam Cohen with the Rams whenever Josh Reynolds was with the Rams? I want to say the answer is yes. He was. So there is some overlap there. He was the assistant wide receivers coach there whenever Reynolds was with the team in 2018, 2019, and in 2020 before he went to Kentucky. So, and then eventually Reynolds left for Detroit by the time Liam Cohen was already gone. But you have 3 years of experience there with Liam Cohen, specifically working with the wide receivers. That's a good indication that this would be a guy that the Bucs would be interested in. Also, you take into the fact that he's been pretty decent the past couple of years. That's a good factor as well. This would be a guy who would still, again, as I said, be competing with Trey Palmer for that wide receiver 3 spot, but would probably have the inside edge. Folks, even at 29 years old, I still think that a guy like Josh Reynolds is a guy who can still put up some really good production. Again, 8 touchdowns in the past 2 years. Like, this is what you expect from like a true wide receiver 3 type of guy, right? Like, actually, this is perfect numbers for what you could expect from, like, maybe like a guy like Van Jefferson in the offense. The absolute peak would be this, right? 600 yards, 5 touchdowns for like a wide receiver 3. And I think that'd be great. That'd be great for the offense. I think Reynolds would be an excellent addition. I think that really all 3 of these guys would be fine additions. In the case, I would say the highest tier addition would obviously be Josh Reynolds. That would be like a pretty solid wide receiver 3. Van Jefferson would be a guy who you'd bring in for veteran competition for Trey Palmer. So be it a wide receiver 3 or a wide receiver 4 battling for a wide receiver 3 spot, which is still fine as well. He'd be 28 years old. Cam Akers is an interesting one. Even if they did sign Cam Akers, I would want the Buccaneers to bring in another running back. Maybe that's bringing back Chase Edmonds. Maybe that's bringing in somebody else differently. But 1, he's a restricted free agent, so we don't know what the heck's going to happen with that. 2, the injury stuff is an absolute concern. So I'd want the Buccaneers to have some more solid guys in there with Cam Akers and Rachaad White, just as insurance policies, just as possible, guys who can be there in the case of injury. Chase Edmonds would be a guy that would be high up on that list for me as well. But that's it for this article. Go check out the entire article over at BucsNation.com and give your thoughts and opinions about that. What do you think about the players that Evan named in his article? What do you think about my thoughts and opinions on these players? Do you guys agree? Do you disagree? Let me know your thoughts and opinions. I'd love to hear them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. As always, guys, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.